Let's call the meeting to order. Today is November 1st, 2016. This is a business meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee. If I could please ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Avanzato, Mr. Glasbach,
Here.
Mrs. Clarkin, Mr. Jones,
Here.
Mrs. McGoffin, here, Mrs. Held, here, student representative.
Here.
Thank you. And if you could please call the calendar.
On Monday, November 14th, there will be a CLAC meeting at 6:30 p.m. at Davisville Academy. And Tuesday, November 15th, there's a school committee business meeting scheduled.
Thank you. Has anyone signed up for citizens' comments? No. Okay. I don't see any citizens there to comment, so I would normally ask if anyone else would like to. Dr. Shea, you've mentioned that you had a recognition.
Yeah, we don't have this on the agenda, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Unified Volleyball team for their championship this past weekend. It's quite an accomplishment, and if in the future people are looking for something that is truly a heartwarming experience and a great time for spectators, please take up Unified Volleyball. It's a great program, great idea, and North Kingstown has an excellent program for that. So,
Thank you. Our next item is if I could have a motion to seal the executive session minutes of November 1st, 2016.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We can disclose that no votes were taken in executive session this evening. We have reached the consent agenda. Do any members have any items they'd like to exempt from the consent agenda? Mr. McGovern.
D1.
D1. The others? If I could have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D1.
Motion to approve the consent agenda except item D1.
And a
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Mr. Jones, D1. Oh, sorry, Mrs. D1.
So on item D1, in the correspondence from the consultant, they mentioned that the process would involve reaching out to the vendors on the MPA, sorry, I was thinking MMA, and I knew that wasn't right. On the MPA, and that was originally discussed when it needed to be fast-tracked last spring in the hopes of getting that work done, but because of the lead time with the actual equipment, now we're back into more of a standard bid purchasing time frame, and I want to make sure that they reach out not only to the MPA vendors, but to all qualified vendors, because the more bids you get, the better pricing you get, and we always want to try to get the best price possible.
Well, I can have Mr. Partridge update this, but the plan is definitely to bid everything out. There'll be a formal RFP. It'll go in the paper. We'll probably put it in the Providence Journal also because it's a wider reach. Also, we will reach out to those vendors that are on the MPA as well, just so that we can, because we just don't tend to get very many bids on these projects. But this is a complete formal bid package, the whole shebang. And the goal is that the RFP would come to you with the bidders for award about late January. We really can't go much past that because the lead time on the equipment that's needed is a good, 15, 16 weeks. But yes, we're following the entire bid process on this.
So with that change in the distribution, then I make a motion to approve D1.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next item are unfinished business, 2016-2017 school budget. Any items there? Next is a carryover from our last meeting, which is the school committee's approval of the CIP funding request.
The last page of your packet contains the information on that request. This is coming back to you with, as was mentioned in the last meeting. Mrs. King, do you want to explain some of the, how the breakout works?
Right. So I tried to break this out in three different kind of ways for you. It probably gets a little bit confusing, but the first part is the recommended items for your consideration for funding at the FY18 budget timeframe, which is late April, early May. So as we discussed at the last meeting, if we did find out at that point that the town council was earmarking funds for us for our CIP, it's likely we would not be able to get anything done in the summer because it was late, but we could get planning and we would know we had these monies. So that's the first batch. The second part of that spreadsheet is a proposal on adding some information on, or funding for the proposed athletic complex, and I'll let Dr. Ajay speak to that in a second. The third part of that spreadsheet are two funding sources that I know are currently available. One of them is outstanding 2004 bond approval that I have from Bond Council, that's the town's bond council, is available for our use. Could only be used at Fishing Cove, Wickford Middle School, and Forest Park, because those were the ones that were originally part of that bond. That would require town council approval, but I do know that it is an available funding source of $400,000. We have approximately $250,000 remaining on the earmarked FY17 funding that we have not yet used. And then the last piece is what we had talked about is for immediate consideration. To get some immediate funding in, we would really need to know in late December, early January that the funds were available to us for the completion of the high school heating and ventilation project. And we would need to know in that time frame in order to plan it. It's still significant enough dollars, it would have to go through RIDE approvals. A lot of the work has been done, but there would still be that approval time frame in order for us to get bid in front of you for an award and get the work going in the summer. So there's a few pieces here to be request.
Item number 2, the athletic complex. As you know, we are working with a project manager right now, and we expect in the next few weeks to get the project outline back, and that will become a proposal to the school committee at that time. So it's coming up soon. But in the event that the school committee or town council do not go forward with an athletic complex at the price in the neighborhood of something to the effect of $2 million, which would redo the turf and the track, we would still need to address the track and tennis courts. And that price would be roughly $700,000, and that would be an ask to the town council for those funds. If the town council and the school committee do work together on a project, possibly on it could be divided up in any conceivable way. If it turned out to be 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3, you'd be looking at 1/3 coming from the town council, 1/3 from the school committee, and 1/3 from private donations, which would mean that the town council would be in the neighborhood of $700,000 regardless. It would just be for items that include more than the track and the tennis courts. It would also include possibly artificial turf in the field as well, and draining and construction that goes along with that. So.
And as an update for you, we do anticipate that there will be a presentation from the consultant that we hired, PAR Engineering. I don't think we're going to hit the November 15th meeting, so it will likely not be until our January meeting. A presentation on, their recommendation, what they found in the study. Dr. Ajay, Mr. Haig, and I did meet with them a few weeks ago, but we anticipate having that information for you very soon. So you'll see their numbers, see their proposals, see the information they have to present.
Mary, it would simply just be their presentation, I mean, wouldn't be requiring any action at that time, right? It's just an information thing to say.
Correct.
So-
It would provide you with the costing.
Right.
And what we're asking them to do is, you're sort of going to have, and I don't mean bottom of the line, I just mean you'll have your basic, and then a couple of items, if you wanted to add, would be estimating this much more and this much more. And you're right, there's no action required, and we're done with them after that unless we want to continue. We have their bid and all that.
Right, but I'm almost thinking that, it's, depending how long it is, but I know generally on the biennial, we just do the pro forma kind of stuff, but, since it doesn't require a decision, that maybe we think about it then, because that might be an important thing to have at our joint meeting.
Do you think they have it ready for that December 5th meeting?
I'm not sure. I'd have to get back to you on that, because also, too, I don't know when that December meeting is scheduled for at this point either.
Well, the timing is, right, time is difficult, because if you recall, the council meets, new members are sworn in, and we meet.
Oh, the biennial meeting, oh, the
Yeah.
December 5th?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I can find out, though.
Well, just to give us the option.
Yep, I can definitely find out.
Giving you, that's just.
It can be, I mean, there's no reason not to. They're,
Yep.
the new members are members at that.
The follow-up joint budget meeting, it could become an element of that if we make it sure that it's not just a tag on to the town council meeting.
Right.
It's a separate night. This is a major component of what we're asking for. So, regardless, even if those items don't work, it'll certainly be something we invite members of the town council to come and witness that presentation.
So we can look into that. Ms. McGovern?
Dr. O'Shea, on the $2 million figure for the athletic complex, does that include tennis courts?
Yes. Again, that's really approximate. I don't want to just throw that number out there like it's, I have that figure in front of me. I don't. But that's what we're thinking. There's a lot to go before we get a bid. For instance, it could be less, could be more. I would say.
And remember that even this document that we're approving tonight is, this is not set in stone. This is, our request and the documentation behind it, how we're coming up with the numbers.
They're all estimates.
But they're all, and
But
just so that everyone understands.
Our understanding with the track element and the tennis courts, that's just those two for this piece. That those things would need to be addressed. We could continue. It wouldn't be ideal, but we could continue with the grass field that we have.
Yeah, if we don't go forward with the complex we've discussed before, you are going to need to do something with the track and the tennis courts. Absolutely.
Right, and on the high school heating and ventilation,
Yes.
the paragraph that talks about the schedule, is it reasonable that we could expect some kind of commitment by December? Does the town have a budget calendar that includes adoption of a capital budget prior to the operating budget?
Well, I'm just thinking about how we had gone to them sort of on a side pullout. This is kind of a carve-out, and we did that with Davisville Academy. And that decision was made at a meeting. So it's tight, that's for sure. If we could get maybe even as, late as their first meeting in January and get a decision, and then we can move forward. But if we go past that, we can't do any work over the summer. It's just too much to plan. So I guess my answer is, yeah, but it's tight. But, we kind of would be going forward as in front of them for a special request, as far as I see it. That's outside of the regular budget process.
Why don't we move forward as if we have the money, so that we are ready to go, and that way we can give them time to get through the budget process, to commit to it.
Well, because I'm going to need a commitment on funding, because we have to pay the A&E fees. That's the first thing. The second thing would be, though, are you also suggesting that we actually do the formal RFP too? Because if you actually hit the street with it, and then you don't have the money to do it, I mean, nothing says we can't pull it, but you just don't award it. But it's a lot of work, and you would still need to, if in a year from now you decide, we can have the money, you got to go back out. So, I mean, if you're willing, if the school committee is willing for me to bring forward the proposal for A&E fees, and we commit to those, that work isn't sunk if you
Right.
don't,
You can
you know,
shelve it.
if we don't go forward, but we would have to pay him.
I mean, how about the ride approvals? I mean, could you
You
work
do,
on
you'd
those?
have to go through all those. It is quite a bit of work.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the design, you know, the schematics and all that. They're familiar with the project because we did a lot of the work. Clearly, the first phase was over $1 million.
I think that's what we should do. Because it's an election year, because of the town's calendar, we're not gonna get a commitment, so we're really just saying this isn't gonna happen this year. Unless we're willing to go forward with the A&E fees and be willing to shelve it if we don't have the money to do the work, but ready to pick it up and
Could
when funds
we,
are available.
could we commit to the A&E fees and ask for approval, yes or no, from the town by maybe before we go out to RFP? Because I don't know that
Yeah.
I'm comfortable doing, you know, putting it on
Well,
the
that
street.
still
if we
buys
don't know the-
time, I
It
guess just a
does.
month or two.
It does. That would probably buy us until what, February?
Yeah.
Does this next phase of work involve long,
Lead
procurement?
times?
Lead
I
times
don't
on
think
equipment?
so. I can check with Mr. Partridge on that. I don't think so.
No, but the big thing was, we've had discussions before that when it comes to school work, you have to get a commitment early in the year, January, February, otherwise the contractors are already booked and they're not available to do the work in the summer because there's so
Yeah.
many schools getting work done over the
Yeah,
summer.
it's always a timing thing. But this one,
I think it
because
would
we
buy
have
us a
to
little bit of
involve
time,
time.
even if it's weeks.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get at least the A&E fee proposal, and I'll bring that back to you guys, we'll get going on that. And then, so maybe when we send this, whatever we're sending over to the town council and asset management, say that we'd like, maybe by late February. You know, this is kind of a carve out. Okay.
We have a motion, we can still talk, but we should have a motion on the table to approve what we have in front of us.
Second.
Okay, and we'll continue discussion.
I had a question, Mary. So for sidewalk and pavement kind of stuff, how much lead time does that involve?
Not a lot,
So
you know.
if we got something in April or May, we could make it happen over the summer?
We probably could in pockets. So, for example, the playground work that we did over this past summer, you know, we bid that out in July. You guys approved it in August. You know, we said that it had to be done in that time frame. If it's more extensive than that, we need more time. But there's probably stuff that we could do.
'Cause
That's one of the things we could get done.
I mean, I think this is fine as is and it's sort of what we asked for, but I would still like to engage the council in December through the process, and I think they have the same issue of saying there's just annual replacement stuff that should be budgeted every year, you know, like they do for the roads. There should be sort of parallel stuff for sidewalks and
Well, and
driveways.
what about piggybacking on the town's bid? Like, if you gave the town the quantities that we need, whether it's parking lots or
Asphalt.
sidewalks, and have them included in their bid, you might get a better price on a square foot or ton basis, because they do so much more. And then, you know, we pay for our share of
Right,
that
right.
contract, but
I can talk to Phil Bergeron about that.
I mean, that might be-
certainly in the business of paving things, I mean, it seems.
Well, yeah, you know, for us, it all depends on, and I know they do it too, but how extensive. Like, so for example, Hamilton and Forest Park are completely ripped up, and, you know, and then Quinessa was just a seal coat.
Yeah.
But I can talk to Phil Bergeron about that and see how current their bids are.
Well, and does the contractor do the prep work, like ripping up the old asphalt? And
Well, what we did last time, what you guys did for the work we did this past summer, is you actually split the award. You split the award between two vendors. So one vendor did the asphalt, and then another vendor did the seal coat.
Yeah.
And that was for timing and pricing and all that. It was better that way.
Yeah, and a lot of paving contractors don't bother with seal
Right,
coating, so you're
exactly.
gonna be dealing with, no, but I meant prep, like, you can't pave over ripped up asphalt because it's just gonna fall apart again. So
Right.
you wanna remove all of that asphalt, so who
In-
does that?
In some instances, that'll be if we would bid it out that way.
Is it possible to get the town to do any of that?
I'm gonna say probably not, just because they always have staffing issues, and don't forget that when we have our big season in the summer to get a lot of stuff done,
They're
so do
probably
they.
their stuff, too.
Yeah, so do they. And it's not at all because, you know, Phil Bergeron is very cooperative, he's always helped us out wherever he could, but they just don't have the staffing for it either.
And their big contracts are contracted out as well. I mean, they don't have just town employees do all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bigger
but they will do some prep.
Smaller stuff.
Yeah,
Certain
yeah.
areas.
Yeah, or patching or whatever, and they have done stuff like that for us too, but any big project, I don't think so. They just run out of time. So the other thing that I would like to clarify is, so what happens now is, I think what I should do is whatever you approve here, I'm gonna change that other CIP document now to move some of these things forward into FY 19. Okay, because we're asking for this. Yes,
We're in 17.
but I can't do it until the summer of
July of 20
19.
this is FY 19.
The summer of 18 is FY 19, okay? So I would change that document based on this information that we're putting forward with the hope that that's the timing of it. But the other thing is that, are we sending this spreadsheet to the town council? Because there really needs to be some wording in there that these are estimates, this is what you anticipate using the funds for. Because, you know, suppose one of these projects we really want to get done is bid $500,000 more than what we thought. Like, I don't want to have to go back to the town to say, oh, you know, this bid came in at higher than what we thought, can we use this money, shift it around? Because that's just going to slow you down.
What I envisioned, I think we talked about last time, the idea was that we were trying to come up with a bottom line number.
Yep.
And we have that here. But at the same time, we wanted to provide information to the extent of, you know, should we receive this amount, this is what we anticipate we can do with it. But we are not, you know, committing to do these exact items or these exact prices. This is just our justification for asking for the amount that we have here, if that makes sense to you folks as well. So, you know, this document is out there as part of our public agenda. I think it might make more sense to just simply say, you know, we've requested a CIP allocation from the town in the amount of our bottom line, and going from there. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should have, you know, a cover letter and
Yep, that's what we usually
backup,
do.
and wouldn't hurt to, you know, have
The whole
pictures and
CIP.
some
Yep.
one-day
That-
videos. And
Well, that whole thing that whole CIP will go,
Right,
what you
right.
saw will go forward to, Dr. Ajay will send it to the town council separately from what I send to Mr. Bergeron that he gives to the asset management committee.
But again, I mean, this document is, you know, it's more of a worksheet and a template than it is anything
Right.
else.
Exactly,
It's a
okay.
plan.
Yeah, correct.
And I mean, that's
Start
not how,
somewhere.
the funds that we have now, that's not how that's been working, but I just want people to understand that it's totally estimated. This is what we anticipate using, and you guys will have the approval
And
on.
there will be
on-
give and take on all of these items.
Yep.
And some may not happen, and something might take priority, but they're,
And it will be reviewed with them at our joint meeting in December.
Oh, and we are,
Any other-
have an asset management committee.
Oh, sorry? Yes.
If you haven't requested already from the high school comm team, student government is willing to work with the comm team to provide and collect videos of the school's infrastructure. I know that you discussed last meeting that you'd like those videos to present to the town council along with pictures of the infrastructure. So if you'd like that, we can work on that.
Okay.
I would like that, thank you. And I'll
Give them a
And
list
the
of-
other schools, if you
give
get
them
a
a
chance
list of
to.
things that you want to have done.
yeah, well, I can go with you to those,
We have to.
the representatives, yeah, and walk you around, and I'll be the person pointing, look at this crack.
This is a lawsuit waiting.
Right, you know.
Quite like that.
Golf balls with crack on it.
The students might know about something too.
Yeah, probably so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? We have a motion and a second on the table, so I'd ask for a vote if we're ready.
Yes.
So all those in favor of approving the CIP funding request as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We have reached the end of our agenda, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.